Test. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Back to the Father, a show about the journey of life focused on our final end, which is God Himself, our loving Father. And now, here's your host, Dave Palmer.
Welcome to this week's Back to the Father here on the Guadalupe Radio Network social media sites. I'm Dave Palmer, along with Cecil Anderson and William Kirkendall. And this is a program where we primarily talk about the teachings of St. Thomas Aquinas as found in his Summa Theologia. Today, we're only going to kind of obliquely be talking about Aquinas, but we're going to talk about some philosophers that greatly influenced not only St. Thomas Aquinas, but every philosopher that came after. And those are the Pre-Socratics, all right? Those are, as the name would imply, anybody who came before Socrates in the Greek world, and there's a lot of them, and there's a whole lot that we can learn from them. So we welcome you. We thank you for watching, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, and we also encourage you to participate, as many people have done over the times that we've done this. And if you have a question or a comment, we very much welcome that. And Sissel will be watching those comments and will let us all know what you have to say. Okay, so let's see. The tagline is putting the fun into Thomistic philosophy. Okay, that is our tagline. And I was, it's been a long day for me and Sissel because we got up bright and early. I can't really see Sissel because I got a monitor here in front of me. You look like a big monitor. That's okay. Now
honestly, that might be better than I'm looking right now.
Yeah, we got in. Well, I got in about 4 o'clock. No, 5. I'm sorry, it wasn't 4. Okay, 4 or 5 o'clock. You got in a little earlier than that because this morning we hosted Catholic Drive Time, which is a network show, which is interesting because often on Fridays at 7 o'clock, I'm the guest on Catholic Drive Time. And this morning I was the host.
He had to interview himself.
I had to interview myself. And but it was a lot of fun. And we had some good topics and all that. So William's back. How you doing? School's about to start up again, I guess?
Yeah, assignments sent out today. So
yeah. Now you say assignments. Does that mean like what classes you're taking? Is that what that is?
Yeah. So each class. So it's the assignments from the tutor for each class I'm taking of what to do this week. That's due on Thursday.
Oh, so you got homework before you even start.
Yes,
okay.
yes, that's what that is. Yeah.
I thought you meant like class assignments.
No,
okay,
no,
this
homework.
is like real stuff.
Homework
huh?
time. Yeah.
All right. I read this during the show this morning because a lot of people are like, why do we need to learn philosophy? And, a lot of people take classes in philosophy in school. So I got this book called Socrates' Children, Ancient Philosophers, where Dr. Peter Kraft, who I'm a big fan of, had an introduction to what he considers to be the 100 greatest philosophers, okay? So he says, why is philosophy important? And he said, because it is distinctly human. Animals do not philosophize because they know too little, and angels do not philosophize because they know too much. To be human is to philosophize, and to be human is to wonder. And then he says, philosophy makes a difference to everything. Sometimes the difference is a matter of life or death. Wars are fought for philosophical reasons. The Civil War was fought over the rightness or wrongness of slavery, although some people would disagree with that.
Yeah.
Would you disagree with that?
I don't know if I'd entirely disagree with it, but I do know people who
it's more states'
who
rights?
contend it's states' rights.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We'll just
I think it's a little bit of both.
We'll play along for Dr. Peter Kraft. But yeah, I know a lot of people didn't think it was about slavery. All right, World War II was fought over fascism. Do you agree with that? Which was a philosophy.
Yeah.
And the Cold War was fought over a philosophy, Marxism or communism. The present culture wars are being fought throughout Western civilization over many related philosophical issues: religion, human nature, natural laws, human sexuality, the meaning of marriage and family, whether human lives have absolute or relative value, just and unjust wars, and the role of the state in human life. Okay, so those are all topics that relate to philosophy, and so it is important that we learn philosophy. And I have not, so anyways, I find it very interesting, and hopefully you do as well. So welcome everybody. And I mentioned last week, I think, so I don't know if you remember this. William can't recall if I mentioned this or not, about the axial period of okay, maybe I didn't. Okay,
you know what? Either you didn't, or William and I collectively, it was a fever dream, and we don't remember.
That could also be. Yeah.
Maybe your mind was spinning at that point,
right? I
right?
have no idea. I don't recall that though.
Dr. Peter Kraft says that around 6,000 BC, in various parts of the world, great thinkers emerged, kind of independent of each other, okay? So in maybe in India and in China and in Greece and in different parts of the world, at that moment, there was a great intellectual kind of renaissance, I guess you could say. I guess renaissance would mean that it was kind of coming back, but maybe coming for the first time. And one of these areas was Greece. And so what was it about Greece why there? why was Socrates and Aristotle and Plato and all these pre-Socratics, why there?
Do they have good food? That's my first thought.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
I
that.
feel like you
but
need to fuel your philosophy with some good food.
yeah, any guess?
I would have no idea.
Yeah.
What is it because
yeah.
of particular? Did they have access to particular? I don't know, books and library. Like, was that some part of it possibly?
Well, that's. I mean, that may have had something to do with it, but I don't know if there would have been books back
yeah,
then.
not
Would
books,
there?
but I
I
guess
wouldn't.
Everything
would
was
say-
orally.
I guess were there walking books?
Yeah.
people.
People as walking books, because
yeah.
I mean, the printing press didn't come around
Until
until
much
like
later,
the 1500s, right?
Right. Well,
So-
could it maybe be because, I mean, they probably weren't the only civilized nation in the world, but they were a very civilized nation at that time. Maybe because of that, they were able to
Spend more time thinking.
Yes, thinking and studying and all that.
Yeah, because if you
Maybe.
think about it, a lot of different civilizations before that, or even at the same time, but in different areas, they were just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one of the things there's an English philosopher that I've been watching a lot of videos of. I think I mentioned him last week as well, and he said, and this is probably one of the important reasons, is that part of the world was an area that was kind of like along a trade route. So you had a lot of people coming from various directions and trading and then coming and going. So you had kind of a melting pot of ideas.
Yeah.
And so people were exchanging ideas in the marketplace and they were challenging each other and on different things. But you just wonder, like, okay, well, that's great, but why so many? You know, I heard somebody say, it must have been divine providence that you had one of the most brilliant people who ever lived in Socrates, who just happened to have, as a student, one of the greatest writers and thinkers. I mean, the fact that the two of them lived at the same time, it's pretty amazing. Because I mean, they're pretty much inimitable characters as far as those two guys who just happen to live in the same part of the world at the same time, and not to mention Aristotle coming as well. So pretty interesting stuff. All right, I want to put up a slide here, this first one, and it's a quote from Aristotle, and I want to see if you guys can fill in the blank, okay? Philosophy begins with what? What word would you fit in there? And by the way,
gosh, we could go
while you
crazy.
guys are thinking about this, I've got a doozy of some trivia questions for later on today.
Fantastic, because
Okay,
I've got so much brain power. I'm gonna nail it. I know it today. See, the thing is,
right.
like, if I started a sentence that was like philosophy begins with, I would end it with tacos personally. But I have a feeling that's not the case.
Aristotle would have never eaten a taco. I mean, there
I
were no
would
tacos
say
back
philosophy begins with a thought. I don't know.
then. Okay, philosophy begins with a thought. Okay,
I
that's
have no
that's a
idea.
nice guess. We've got some
that's a
consolation
nice-
prizes for
Oh,
you. Okay,
thank you. I think
Yeah.
tacos is more realistic first.
You got food in your mind, don't you?
I'm
It's a
hungry,
second reference to
apparently.
food. Okay, William, you want to take a stab at it? Philosophy begins with
You can't go
what?
worse than me. So
Yeah,
you're
it's
okay.
you can't go any worse than tacos. Okay, let's just say that.
I will go with wisdom.
Okay,
Ooh.
all right, I like that. Sissel's all of a sudden thinking that her taco one is not quite
I
living
stand
up
by
to
my
it.
tacos personally.
Okay, all right. So the quote goes: "Philosophy begins with wonder."
Ah, that makes
Okay,
sense.
philosophy begins with wonder. Now, I want to compare that, and I'm saying this because the Pre-Socratics that we're going to talk about today were men who looked at the world with wonder. And I think one thing that we need to do is take a critical look at the modern world, especially since the scientific revolution. And I'm going to give you a quote, and you can try to figure out who this guy is with this frowny face on the next slide, okay? And just kind of let this quote sink in. I don't know. I'll tell you who it is after I give the quote. He says, "My only earthly wish is to stretch the deplorably narrow limits of man's dominion over the universe to their promised bounds. Nature will be bound into service, hounded in her wanderings, and put on the rack and tortured for her secrets." I may have mentioned this quote before on this show, because the first time I read this, I was like, wow, that is the exact opposite of wonder, right? in one case, you've got the Greeks who are looking at the world with awe and wonder and trying to figure it out and thinking, whoa, this is amazing. There must be somebody who's behind this, right? And then look at this quote. This is Francis Bacon. Okay, Francis Bacon. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so Francis Bacon, lived, I want to say around the time of Descartes and maybe Galileo and Copernicus. I don't know, but these guys, right? Mm-hmm. And so what he's saying is, we're not looking at nature with a sense of awe and wonder and respect. We are putting it to the rack, and we're going to get answers out of it. Mm-hmm. So I'd ask you, and I'd ask anybody who's watching right now, how much has that influenced the way we see the world? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that the average person, they see birds or a sunset or, it's just something in nature, and they we got to kind of figure it out. Mm-hmm. Science has already explored it. We know the temperature of the sun. We know it's a gas. We know why there's different colors of the sunset, and we can explain it. And science has kind of got all this stuff figured out. Mm-hmm. We've put science to the rack, and we've gotten all the answers out of it, mm-hmm. and we'll move on.
Yeah. It sounds kind of like empiricism. Mm-hmm. Empiricism kind of, upholding science and all of that.
Yeah. Whereas I've gotten to the point myself where if I see like a cricket or a grasshopper or a ladybug or something, I mean like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
who I know who created it, but
yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I wonder if we could have a revolution of wonder. Yeah. And I wonder what difference that would make. I mean, because we live in like after the ancient Greeks and after the medieval period, there was what's called a mechanical, mechanistic, I guess you could say, view of the world. Okay, where it's like a machine. It's something that just kind of works, and we figure it out, and we know how it works, and we've analyzed it, we've put it under the microscope, and we've studied it, and thank you very much. It's pretty cool. All right, let's move on. So anyways, this is all in a sense to say that maybe if we look back at the Pre-Socratics and we see how they view the world, it might be a little bit different, okay? But before that, in this segment, and again, if you are out there and you're watching and you'd like to comment on anything that we're talking about, you're very welcome to do so. I just got some pictures here of beauty, so I'm just going to kind of go through these. And just these are ones that students of mine have turned in, the sunsets and trees and...
My computer's having a moment, by the way, so I am trying my best to keep up with the chat while I try to unfreeze it.
Is there any chat?
I think Mark Lowe said bacon.
Oh, he got Francis Bacon.
Yep.
Yeah, he wasn't talking about food, by the way.
He was talking about the food bacon, I think.
All right, picture of a giraffe there, and a caterpillar, and some pretty cool stuff, right? So in this first segment, before we take our first break, we'll go over Aristotle's four causes. Okay, do you know about the four causes? About
is it the earth, fire?
No, those are the four elements.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are the four elements. So what Aristotle did was he looked out at the world and he wanted to find some kind of explanation for every single kind of thing that happened in the world. Mm-hmm. So he comes up with these four causes, and they are material cause, formal cause, efficient cause, and final cause. Okay? So he says that if you look at something as simple as, what'd you have for dinner last night?
What did we have?
Did your mom make something? Or let's just say...
Oh, actually, I was at a party last night, so we had Chick-fil-A.
That sounds like an amazing
Okay,
night.
well let's take Chick-fil-A meal as an example. Yeah. Okay, so it has four causes. Okay, so the material cause would be the actual physical material. Okay, it'd be the chicken, yeah, the bun. Okay, that
pickles,
thing.
Yeah.
The formal cause is the form, what it is. Okay, it's a chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy enough. The efficient cause is who brought it into being, who created it. And in that case, I'm guessing it's some cook at the back of Chick-fil-A who works for Chick-fil-A, and he made it, right? Mm-hmm. And then the final cause is the purpose for why it was made. Okay. So the final, it presumably was made to feed somebody, right? Or no, you might say somebody wanted to make money, but there was a final cause. There was some purpose. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been made, right? So you can apply the four causes to anything, okay, according to Aristotle. But what happens in the history of philosophy, both before and after Socrates and Aristotle, is that a lot of philosophers knock out some of these things. Like final cause is very unpopular for materialist philosophers because they don't believe that there's any purpose. Like if I were to say, as Aristotle and Aquinas would say, there's a purpose for your life. Okay, by the very nature of you being a human being, you were created for some purpose. And Aquinas would say for beatitude, right? Mm-hmm. To spend eternity with God and to grow in virtue and to be the best version of William Kirkendall that you possibly could be, right?
Right.
Atheists would say that's rubbish. There's no. I mean, Jean-Paul Sartre, existentialist, would say, no, that's crazy. I mean, he can make himself whatever he wants to be, but there's no like designated purpose or final end, according to the Creator, right?
Yeah, right.
So this stuff's very important. And so in the different philosophers knock out a lot of different things. Even Aristotle didn't believe in an efficient cause. He believed that the world always existed. Okay, so there wasn't he believed in a God, but he didn't believe that God created the universe. He believed that it always existed from forever, which Thomas would disagree with that. Okay, so there was no efficient cause for Aristotle. For the world. Things had efficient causes, but the world didn't, okay? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
I think so.
You're still thinking about tacos.
I mean, I can't say a lie here.
It's not even Tuesday, and you're thinking about...
I know, I'm thinking about it. No.
Okay. All right. So, did you get the comments back? Or
I had to reboot my computer, but I'm just back up.
Okay. So. Is Mark still with us, or did Mark...
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
All right, so that's the four causes. And when we get back after a break, we are going to look into the Pre-Socratics and see how they kind of lined up with these. And the first ones, by the way, are only going to focus in on material cause. Okay, they're going to look around and they're going to say, wow, look what's in the world. Look what's out there. And that's all they're going to focus on. They're not going to think like, what's the purpose of it? Who created it? What is it? They're just going to say, this is what exists, okay? And then various other ones will be adding different causes as we go along. So, all right, so that is the end of segment number 1. We're 20 minutes into the show now, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back right after this and talk about some of the Pre-Socratics who preceded Socrates in Greek philosophy. So we'll be right back. All right, we are back. This is Back to the Father here on the Guadalupe Radio Network social media sites. Dave Palmer, Cecil Anderson, William Kirkendall, and we spent the last segment talking about Aristotle and the four causes and how he kind of explained any natural process in the world and how the Greeks really were looking at the world and with awe and wonder and trying to kind of figure it out and wonder where it came from and that kind of thing, which is, I think, a pretty cool way of looking at the world. And so I want to spend this segment talking about the Pre-Socratics. Okay, and I mentioned these last week on the show, and I asked y'all if you were familiar with any of these, but we didn't go into a lot of details. I think we talked about Thales of Miletus because he is considered to be the first of all Western philosophers. Do you remember what I said was his philosophy? It was very simple. I think Cecil got a giggle out of it.
Everything is water.
Oh,
yes,
that's right.
Exactly.
That sounds like some like earthbending or something like very weird. Everything is
So,
water.
but the thing. So if a philosopher thinks that everything is one, they will be called a monist. Okay, but and even though it's a little bizarre that everything could possibly be the water. Okay, so he's only looking at a material cause. Okay, he's only saying everything is this material, everything's water. But the interesting thing about it is that at least he sees that there's some kind of unity. You know, there's something that kind of unifies everything, and it's not just all its own thing and it's all scattered, right? So that's Thales of Miletus. He's typically considered to be the first Western philosopher of all time. Wouldn't that be a great title to have? I mean,
right?
like the first philosopher. And all you got to do is say, everything's water. And
I could have done that. I could have said everything's tacos.
I know. The great Cecil of Highland Village. Everything is tacos.
Everything is tacos.
Okay,
can I please have a book written now? Everything is
Yeah,
tacos.
you're a few thousand years late for being the first philosopher. But
Darn.
All right, so then Anaximander comes along, and you can see most of these guys were living in that axial period that I was talking about, around 500 to 600 BC. You know, so many centuries before Jesus Christ. So he comes along, and I don't know if I mentioned him last week or not. So he's going to improve upon what Thales says, and he's still trying to figure out, like, what is this unifying something? You know, there's something that unifies everything and everybody.
And this is the guy that said everything's fire, right?
No,
No.
not yet. Okay, did I mention him last week?
I think you did say something about
Okay,
fire.
there is a guy that's going to say everything's fire.
Someone
Now
else
that-
say everything's air. And everything
hold on. Yeah, you guys are getting ahead of yourselves. But okay,
We're going all Avatar here.
Anaximander said everything is the infinite. Okay, so that's what he says, the infinite.
Okay.
But we generally think like infinite's kind of cool because God is infinite and he's everywhere, right? But he actually thought that this was kind of a limiting factor. You know, he thought it was actually kind of a negative because they looked at, you know, something like art or things that we do have to be spatially bounded. I mean, you can't create anything infinitely, right?
Right.
So he saw it more as a negative thing, right? Okay, so then Anaximenes, you see a lot of anaxes, okay, a lot of anaxes at the beginning of names. This is, as the great Cecil of Highland Village said, that Anaximenes says everything is wind, breath, or life. Okay, or air, I guess you could say. Isn't that what you said? Is
Yeah.
air? Okay.
I'm really starting to feel like this is where the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender got their concept with their show.
Oh, really?
From.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they did. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is that everything in philosophy flowed from the Pre-Socratics, including Socrates. I mean, Socrates wrote in response to the Pre-Socratics
Right.
and the Sophists, like we talked about last week. So we owe a huge debt of gratitude to these men. So, okay, one guy thinks it's all water. One guy thinks it's the infinite. One guy thinks everything is wind or breath or life. And then you come along and you've got Pythagoras, okay? All things to Pythagoras are numbers, okay? Numbers are the key to understanding everything, and all things are made from numbers. Now, what's the difference between what everybody else has said and what Pythagoras is saying is that air and water, I guess the infinite is not tangible, but numbers are abstract. Okay, you can't hold on to 3. You can't hold on to 125, right? Numbers are by their very nature abstract because you can only have a number of something, right? 3 apples or 3 pears or 3, this or that. So this is, Pythagoras kind of took it to a different level. And he says nature obeys mathematical laws. Math is the language of nature. And to some degree, he's right. I mean, nature does obey mathematical laws. So you can see they're kind of figuring stuff out, right? They're looking at the world and they've got this amazing sense of wonder and curiosity, and they're trying to figure stuff out as they go along. All right, then along comes Heraclitus. Now this is the guy who said, and I think we mentioned this last week, I'm not 100% sure, that everything is change.
Oh.
Everything is flux. Everything is in a constant state of change. And he's kind of right?
Yeah.
And he's the one that said everything was fire. But he didn't literally...
Everything's change on fire, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, he didn't literally mean fire but fire's always changing. Have you ever seen a fire standing still? I mean, you've seen water stand still, but fire's always moving, okay? But by fire, he meant kind of like a life force or something that was a driving force of energy and change in the world, okay? And he's the one that said you can never step into the same river twice because it's all the second time you step in it, it's always going to be different than the first time you stepped in it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, but then, now get this. He said, even though all things change, there is a law or a logos, which is abstract, unchanging, rational order or formula, okay? So even though the whole world is changing down here below, there is something up there that's unchanging, and it's the logos, right? Which is going to be a prefiguration of what John said in his gospel in the beginning was the logos, right? And the logos was with God, and the logos was God, right? Yeah. And
Aristotle shared that same belief with Heraclitus, right?
About the logos,
but yeah, about the being that.
I think I don't know. I think it would almost be more Platonic. Okay. Like Plato had this world of forms up above, which were eternal and unchanging.
Oh, I said Aristotle. Did I say Plato? I meant Aristotle.
Oh, okay, yeah, but I think it's Plato.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think Plato would say the world down here is always changing, it's always becoming, it's always it's kind of imperfect. It's just like shadows. But up above, in the realm of forms, you've got the unchanging, the eternal, right? So I would say that that he would be more in line with Plato. But that's okay. Then Xenophanes was the first person to reason that the world must be ruled by a monotheistic God. Okay, so there's one God, one supreme God who's not like other human beings, and he set all things in motion by the thought of his mind. Okay, so that's him. And then we move on to Parmenides, and he was a pantheist. And pantheists are very interesting because they believe that everything is God. Did you know that Georg Hegel was a pantheist?
Really?
Yeah. Hegel believed it's really interesting, and I need to do more study on Hegel. But Hegel was a pantheist.
I refuse to believe that a cicada is God.
I know, but it's like but it's not like it's God, but it's just like part of God, right? Like I don't know. It's interesting. Okay, so Parmenides was a pantheist. He was a monist, and then Zeno of Elea taught through paradoxes. Have you ever heard the paradox of, like, if a rabbit and a hare are in a race, the rabbit will never catch the hare because he always has to go halfway and then another halfway.
Yeah, I think I have heard this before.
Have you heard that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like one of these little like mind bender paradoxes that just are just kind of weird. But he had a whole bunch of these. Zeno of Elia, and okay, and then let's see, Empedocles denied that all things are one. He said he was a pluralist. He's the one that came up with the four elements of earth, air, fire, and water as material causes of all things. And then he also said that there was an efficient cause, which he said was cosmic love, which love is what creates all things, right? So that would be kind of a prefiguration of God, right? And then let's see, the last one I'll refer to is Democritus, and he's the last one. It came a little bit later, 450 to 370, and this one is interesting because he was what they called an atomist, and he believed that the only things that are real are tiny invisible atoms. And everything that exists is made up of atoms, which is kind of true, right? Everything that does exist believes in atoms. But he said, including the mind and thoughts. Okay, so everything.
Are you saying my brain is full of atoms?
Yeah, like your thoughts, he would say, were just like atoms that are moving faster.
Huh.
Okay, so
interesting.
So then all events happen due to a transfer of momentum. So you see all these atoms that just are bouncing together and reacting one another create frogs and human beings and daffodils, okay? And so you break everything down, it's just like billions and billions of all these atoms. But there's no God, there's no efficient cause. They just kind of bouncing around but interestingly, he had a huge influence on the scientific revolution. People like Francis Bacon and also the Epicureans, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we shall die. They liked this, because there's no explanation for anything. It's just a whole bunch of matter kind of bouncing around and creating things, and there's no reason for it. There's no purpose. There's no final end.
Yeah.
And so then if that's the case, you can live however you want because there's no God, there's no ethics, there's no moral imperative or anything like that. So anyways, do those things make sense to you, or do you kind of interesting, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Definitely.
Yeah. So anyways, anybody commenting out there in social media land?
Mark Lowe commented taco emojis from earlier.
Taco emojis.
So
Mark Lowe is not taking this seriously.
I've taken over Back to the Father with the tacos.
Okay, so anyways.
No, nothing serious.
Nothing significant. Okay, well, Mark, we're glad you're out there. We're glad you're watching. And so the point is, these are all the guys that preceded Socrates, and Socrates is going to get all the fame and the fanfare and the attention, and he's going to be the one that everybody remembers. But a lot of what he taught had to do with his reflection on these guys, the Pre-Socratics who followed before him. So, all right, so that's that, and I just wanted to introduce you to those, but. Any thoughts? Any comments? Any questions about any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, would it thinking about the Pre-Socratics and the Sophists from last week? Would it be fair to say that the Pre-Socratics kind of lean more towards like the rationalist philosophy, and the Sophists lean more towards the empiricist philosophy, or is it kind of a mixture of both? Or what would you say? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think the Sophists definitely were not rationalists because they were mostly skeptical, where there was no meaning for anything, there was no purpose, and the Pre-Socratics, they were kind of all over the place, so they weren't any kind of like homogenous type of thought. But I don't know. I think some of these Pre-Socratics would have been empiricists.
Okay, yeah.
And some of them would have been rationalists. But that's a good question. But I think what sets the Sophists apart is that they didn't see any purpose or meaning in the world, and they would have disagreed with most of the Pre-Socratics in that they're kind of like throw your hands up in the air and say like nothing makes sense. It doesn't mean anything. And that's why I think Socrates primarily turned his argumentation against them rather than the Pre-Socratics, because so Socrates saw great meaning in things, right? Yeah. And he also saw telos. He saw a purpose, an end for all people, including human beings. But that's a really good question, though. All right, Taco Sissel. But
I was trying to formulate an intelligent question, but I didn't have one. All I've got is tacos going through my head. No, I just think it's really interesting. I don't know, how many of them are like, oh, the world is blah, is just really fascinating to me that I just wonder how you come to that conclusion.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays we have stuff like, plasticware and glass, and we have a lot. I don't know what they would have seen. Most of their world would have been natural, right? Yeah. It would have been. I mean, they would have had buildings, but I don't think they would have had as much artificial things. I don't think they would have had all their tables would have been made of wood or kind of natural things and not plastic and things like that. So I think it's easier for us to say that's ridiculous to think that all things are one, because we have, I think, a greater variety of things. I don't know if that makes sense, but it does seem a little bizarre to say that everything's water, because like a tree. But then again, we are 80 or 90% water, and a tree is probably mostly water. You live on the ocean and it's clearly water, and you got water falling from the sky, and you got water freezing, and you got gas, and so.
Yeah, it's kind of the reason I thought that he was more of a rationalist, at least that pre-Socratic philosopher, because like you don't see water everywhere. Like, this is not water, but this desk, but he's using his logic and his reason to say, well, we are made up of a large percentage of water, and water coming from the sky, waterfalls, all that. So maybe it makes sense that everything's water. That's kind of why I thought he was more of a rationalist, because he.
Yeah, and I think it was Nietzsche hated Socrates. He hated Socrates and Jesus. Those were his two arch enemies. But he thought that he liked at least the Pre-Socratics better, because he thought that Socrates turned everything too much into reason. Too much trying to figure out purpose and things and final ends and like over analysis, whereas Nietzsche was not of that sort, and so he had a great dislike for Socrates. All right, well, it is 40 after, and we're going to come back. I don't know how much more discussion we can have of this. I don't know if there's any comments that are on, but we could go straight to trivia, because I've got a doozy of trivia for you. And so let's do that. Let's take a break. This is Back to the Father here on the Guadalupe Radio Network social media sites. We thank you for joining us. And second break now, and we're going to come back and pit William and the slightly competitive Sissel to a game of trivia here on Back to the Fathers. We'll be back. All right, we are back to the Father. It's time for trivia. As I like to have a little contest and pit William against Sissel, and may the best person win. Okay,
I do have one comment to read really quickly from Forrest. He said he agrees that the Pre-Socratics don't make a lot of sense, but thinks he has too much of the modern philosophy in his head, and so it's kind of hard to fathom their perspective.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we all are kind of a result of all the philosophy that has come since then, and so but back then everything was so primitive. I mean, they didn't have the advantage of having Aquinas and Augustine and some of these other philosophers as well, Descartes. All right, so this one's kind of outside the box, but we're learning about Pre-Socratics.
Okay.
And so I thought, how about we do prefixes? Okay, so here for an example.
Please.
Okay, so example. And I think the word is prefix. Okay, so the prefix that means before, earlier, or in front of would be ante. Okay, antecedent, anti-meridian, okay? So anti.
Anti, yeah.
Okay? So ante. So tell me, because pre-Socratic prefixes, okay?
Got it.
So what would be the prefix for something against or opposite? The at the beginning of the word that would imply that this is against or opposite.
Oh, like anti?
No, it's something different.
Oh.
Well, actually, anti would be okay. That is one.
Right.
Okay,
That's why I was so confused.
I was thinking contra.
Yeah.
Contra.
Oh,
okay,
contra.
okay.
Contra is another one. Okay.
Oh no, this is.
Okay, so William has taken.
I'm operating at 30% already, and I feel like this is not.
Okay, how about beyond, outside, or more than? What prefix? Beyond, outside, or more than? That look on Sissel's face. Sissel's like, I like the Greek philosophy questions. Okay, how about extra?
Extra.
Extracurricular, extramarital, extra.
You went too deep with me.
Okay, how about
okay. Mark is doing well, and Forrest got the first one.
Okay,
they might be winning
it's
today.
It's just you guys. Okay, how about different or other?
Con? No, not con.
Let me. I've got to go. I've got to go to
go to
Forrest and Mark
comments.
to see if I get this.
Someone help, please.
It's hetero.
Oh, because that was on the top of my.
I gotta do some easier ones.
Yeah.
Okay,
please.
Okay, over, more, or beyond.
Wait, didn't we just do that one?
No. Oh no, we did beyond, outside, or more.
Oh.
So yeah, some of these are similar. Hyper.
Oh, yeah.
Believe is it just me or is your brain not even locking into
It's
this?
not lo-
Yeah,
it's not
there you
locking,
guys.
no.
Yeah, this is.
It's not just you.
Okay,
Okay. After or behind?
Post?
Post. Yo, dang it! That's like the one I could get. I said it too slow.
That's when Latin helps.
Post. Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's what
Yeah.
Before or forward?
Pre.
Okay, there you go. See, you get the hang of this now.
See, those ones are easy. Some of these other ones
okay.
are not easy.
How about again?
Again?
I should know this. Yeah.
Dose.
Like re-elect, readmit, resubmit,
Yeah.
Okay. How about under or lower?
Sub.
All right.
took way too long.
It's a tie. We got a tie.
It's taking way too long for my brain to process this right now.
Okay.
No.
This is a bad idea.
It's a great idea. I'm just
Okay. Okay. So let's see. Very small.
Does it start with an M?
Yes.
Oh, micro.
Micro. Okay. Very large.
Macro.
Macro.
You know it was coming.
I know.
Okay. Between or among?
I know. Oh, shoot.
I should know
Between,
this. Ramon.
Yeah, this one you should know. This is not like this is
Wait, I know.
brain.
Wait, as soon as you said it, I was like, something came into my head and I've lost it.
Does it start with an S? Is it like
no. Okay, it's inter.
Oh,
Intervene,
obviously.
interstellar. Okay, the same or alike?
I don't bloomin' know.
Well, remember, different was hetero, so the same as homo. Homonym, homophone. I'm sorry. Everything about this whole show has been way too deep and way just too much. So
No,
my
it's
apologies.
okay.
It's almost over. Okay, this thing's whole coming to an end.
This is just gonna live on the internet forever. William and I not.
What if this becomes like a viral show?
yeah,
one
Or
day?
William and I are gonna try. We're gonna go in the future, try to get married to our separate spouses, and just like they're gonna find this video and they're gonna be like, "Wow, you didn't know these."
You didn't know these? Okay. How about 3 or every third?
What? Try? I'm so confused.
Okay. You'll look back at this tonight as you're sleeping and say, you know what? That wasn't as hard as I made it.
Probably
Okay.
wasn't.
1 or single?
Uno.
Uni.
Uni. I like that we
Okay.
both went Uno.
And that one was worth 3, so William is now in a tie.
Whoa.
With, Sissel.
I may
So
be tired, but I'm not gonna take this line down.
that's right. Not only is this like a really brain twisting kind of thing,
I
but
got like 4 or
it's-
5 hours of sleep last night.
right. So this is going to be for all the marbles, okay?
I'm really glad
boy.
the camera is so far away because I'm looking so
Let's see. Okay, this is the last one.
Oh boy.
William's like, I this will be the last time I come. Okay. Across,
Oh, wait a second.
beyond, or through.
Per.
No. That's the sound a cat makes.
Wait, say again?
Beyond, across, or through.
Way over yonder. I don't.
Okay.
I had no idea.
Okay, that's trans.
Oh.
Okay. How about now here's okay, all or every.
Omni.
Who got it?
Omni.
I think
Omni.
Yeah.
Omni. I think
yeah.
you said it right before I did. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Oh man. I remember it reminds me one time we had
By the way, Mark wants to know why. Mark, I can't do too many things at once. They've been answering them and they've been getting them pretty right.
Well, one time we had friends over for New Year's Eve, and there are it's Rick, my friend from Arkansas, and his wife, and we played this game called Oddly Obvious.
Okay.
And Oddly Obvious takes a lot of like quick brain power, like where you really have to try to figure things out, and it's these little puzzles, and it's like who can get it, kind of like this, who can get it first,
Yeah.
And games are supposed to be fun, right? They're supposed to be like relaxing and all that. And after we finished that game, they were both like, "Oh, I need to go to bed." And they were like, they hated it. It was so like they were so humiliated because we were playing with like teenagers. And the teenagers are real fast, and I kind of feel like we accomplished the same thing here today.
Yes,
So,
I think
anyways,
so.
yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. So like everything about this show was just a complete mental brain, just a warp.
Hey, I mean, it would have been worse if I had never studied Latin at all.
Right? Honestly, my Latin was just I had to like break it open.
And going into it, I thought it was such a clever idea.
It was.
Yeah.
It was for
No, it
people
wasn't.
smarter than us and less sleep deprived than us.
All right,
Latin
so
scholars.
that's going to do it for this program. We're going to lighten things up. In fact, we're going to give everybody a week off next week just to try to recollect and get everything back on track. So in 2 weeks, unless you guys want to do a show next week.
Well, stay tuned to our email list. We'll let you know. Maybe we can do our own trivia and we can know all the answers. That's what happens.
There you go. Yeah, there you
We
go.
can advance just like
Just
tell
kind
each
of make
other
yourself
all
feel
all
better, right?
See, I could quiz you all on cicada knowledge. I
Oh,
know
wow.
lots of
Wouldn't that
cicadas
be
recently.
nice?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, very nice.
I think so.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for watching. Whether you're live or watching this as a recording, this has been Back to the Father. We'll be back in 2 weeks for sure, but maybe next week if Sissel and William decide
we
on
get it
doing
together.
something, okay?
Yeah.
In the meantime, keep studying your philosophy and your St. Thomas Aquinas and your prefixes, okay? God bless you. Thanks a lot.
Prefixes.
Thanks for joining us for Back to the Father. And don't forget, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. If you have comments about the show, email Dave Palmer at grnonline.com.